The next chapter is called Local Government Relations, and this deals with the relationship between your lands and government and the local governments, that is, the regional districts and cities in your area. The starting point is that unless you choose otherwise, you are outside of the regional districts, you are outside of the local municipalities, and you are outside of any electoral areas. The advantage of this is that you are free from any control by those local governments. The disadvantage of this is that it means that you may not be able to get some of the services that they provide. Under the local government chapter, you will have the ability to opt into joining regional districts. This is provided for in the Local Government Act, and it's something that each First Nation is going to have to consider as it gets ready for treaty. There are advantages and there are disadvantages to entering into the regional districts. There will be certain costs that will be undertaken, but also it means that there will be certain powers that you obtain, and it will also ensure the delivery of certain kinds of services. If you don't opt into the regional district, there are also powers in the final agreement that allow for the negotiation of service agreements, so that just as now services are often provided on treaty settlement land by agreement, you will be able to arrange the same after the final agreement. Thus, for example, there can be agreements covering fire service, ambulance service, emergency numbers, water services, sewage services, all the things that will make it possible to use your land into the future. The discussion of whether or not to join the regional district will be different for each First Nation and will be happening between AIP and final agreement, and likely even after final agreement. In addition to those provisions, there are some very specific provisions dealing with having to participate in the Regional Hospital Board. Essentially, First Nations are required to participate in the Regional Hospital Board, and there will be a negotiation about how the costs associated with that will be dealt with. While the local government chapter is a relatively short chapter and really deals with matters that are outside the treaty, as a practical matter, the negotiations with the local governments will be an important part of deciding whether or not the treaty settlement land and the overall treaty package is acceptable. It will be important to ensure that you have services and access to services before you accept the treaty, as it's going to be hard to do economic development without access to modern urban services.